So, good morning, everybody. My name is Marcus Langford. I'm from W3Partnership. Hopefully, you're all on the call, which is all about the API integration workshop and the importance of APIs in securing the value chain. This morning, I have Andrew Howarth, who's the API Economy Sales Lead for IBM, on the call, and also Graham Woods, who's an integration architect at one of our clients, Office Depot. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting the background as to why APIs have become important within the whole business community, what the technologies involved around those are, and then we're going to go and Graham and Andrew are going to have a discussion about specifically what it was Office Depot were looking for in a B2B partner gateway solution. For you, just a few bits of housekeeping. I will be putting everyone on mute until it's relevant for anyone to talk. If you've got any questions you want to ask, there's a couple of ways that you can do that. There's a chat facility on the console where you can enter a message. There will be I will be opening up the microphones at the end for any questions you want to ask directly of those people on the call. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Andrew Howarth, who's going to set the scene for you. Andrew, over to you.
Thank you very much, Marcus, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to be with us this morning. Just to reiterate what Marcus says, we've got about 30 minutes of slideware and messages we're going to run through. I'm going to break that down into 4 areas. We're going to talk a little bit to start off with about the market trends and how APIs are driving disruption in a number of different industries. We're going to then move into looking at the high-level solution overview, and then we'll look at some of the key attributes to look out for when choosing this type of technology to support your business initiatives in this space. And then Graham and I are just going to have a walk through the key attributes that were important in the choice of the solution. So I wanted to start by introducing a couple of things that I'm seeing in virtually every conversation that I have with clients at the moment, regardless of industry. The fact is that a digital transformation is changing the game and the way in which we see our clients engaging with their customers. There is a large shift of the way in which the power is moving from suppliers to consumers, and we are seeing this disrupt the marketplace in a number of different ways. And it's very clear from reading many of the industry analyst reports, people like Forrester and Gartner and IBC, they're all united around the business value of digital transformation, but they're also united in the fact that the biggest inhibitors to success for many of our clients in this area is the fact that integration is a challenge, and integration end-to-end is also the foundation that you need to build on for digital transformation. It's also interesting that a number of other analysts talk also about some other key attributes in choosing the platform, which is that of lifecycle management, and comes second only after the biggest area of challenge, which is that is of security. So we've got a number of capabilities, number of trends coming together to support this marketplace. So, on to the next slide. What we have got, therefore, is beyond the enterprise, a very complex and evolving landscape with marketplace trends. It's no surprise now that business to business and business to consumer, with the advent of applications and customer experience being driven to the mobile platforms, and most customers, when building applications now for customer-centric approaches, delivering those in tablet or mobile forms, and the move to cloud computing becoming ever more based around value these days, that integration and communication beyond the enterprise is becoming an absolute must for organizations in their environment. And what we see at the moment is traditional business models across these environments that we've highlighted here are getting disrupted, and many of them are getting destroyed and reinvented. And there's some very, very good examples of where traditional business organizations have been disrupted. And if you think about, for instance, just home media, Netflix, YouTube, it's destroyed completely the blockbuster model by providing universal access to services across all different channels and devices. If you think about Thomas Cook's traditional business model, the travel and transport and Expedia and Airbnb, new providers like that are disrupting that business. If you think about the new platforms of CRM like Salesforce, is disrupting the traditional Siebel capabilities. And there's all sorts of upheaval going to happen in the banking space with open banking and the European regulation on PSD2, which changes the entire payment landscape in the banking industry. So there's lots of examples now where the business landscape is changing, it's being disrupted, and how do corporations react to that? Then what they need to be doing is being able to play in that environment and go securely beyond their enterprise. So, if we look at this from an omni-channel, multi-channel standpoint, organizations generally need a single solution, a security and integration gateway that's capable of handling all types of application workloads with a policy-driven interface. This will promote consistent security policy enforcement and provide end-to-end security. And IBM's multi-channel gateway platform, commonly referred to as Data Power, is an ideal security integration gateway for multi-channel enterprises to help them secure and control and integrate and optimize workloads across all these different channels. And specifically the one that I've highlighted here in the middle is APIs, because we are seeing a very large upsurge of APIs fueling transformation in the digital economy, linked to that of the new powerful security on the edge of the enterprise. From an IBM standpoint, we have a number of solution form factors. We have a hardened appliance, which is a rack-mounted appliance, but we also have a virtual appliance as well. And you can have that deployed both on our Bluemix platform, which is IBM's digital innovation platform, and you can also have that deployed on the cloud, and you can physically deploy it in your organizations as well. And it supports a whole host of back-end different systems and capabilities across an enterprise architecture. So security as one aspect of that. But this chart just demonstrates that IBM has a comprehensive business integration platform, of which Data Power just forms the edge of security. So we are also able to manage a lot of the attributes needed on a wider business-to-business landscape, and that helps us deal with multiple different buying behaviors, buying patterns, and the demands placed upon us as an organization to provide extremely rich and powerful integration capabilities. As I mentioned, APIs, for instance, one of the analysts, Forrester, specifically talked about when you are looking at the choice of a gateway, and many organizations I have seen this last 12 months have started to look at the gateway in isolation of APIs and other future projects and programs. But interesting, Forrester has said that anybody considering a gateway choice should consider the strategy and direction of their API strategy going forward, because APIs and the gateway solution are natural bedfellows in that regard. And Forrester has recognized IBM's leadership here, not only with the market-leading gateway with over 4,200 customers globally, but also our market-leading API platform, bringing them together and combined. So that's a little bit of the scene setting on the landscape and the market trends and some of the challenges in that area. So let's talk a little bit about the solution overview. How do the security gateway and the API management capabilities fit together? Well, this is all about unlocking the value that lies in the back-end systems that you have in your applications and your data. And many of your organizations that you will be aware of will be talking to multiple different cloud type services. You'll have a combination of application service. You may even be running a service-oriented architecture over an ESB, for instance. You may have different legacy applications and data and all sorts of messaging solutions as well. So the important part of this is that what we need to be able to do is to then surface APIs out of those back-end services, make them available not only to internal subscribers to these capabilities, but also to third parties as well. Now, interestingly, the API solution from IBM had inbuilt capability to allow you to create and run APIs if you don't have those APIs already, and that comes out of the box with the IBM solution. So once we've got a set of APIs, we can't just let them dangle out there and anybody come in and use them, because what we need to be able to do is to secure those APIs. So we need the API gateway, which is data power, which comes with our API solution. And on the right-hand side of here, you can see many of the attributes that it carries in relation to being able to secure and enforce the policies around those APIs to make sure that it provides the right level of authentication, non-repudiation, policy enforcement, quota management, and rate limiting become very important when you start providing additional services, because APIs are a way of driving new revenue streams and new market opportunities for businesses, and they need a whole host of back-end systems security that goes with access to those environments. The point about this, and why does our gateway drive so much capability in this area, is that in my experience, when we are comparing and contrasting other competitors' gateways, there's a fundamental architecture difference between our approach and some of the competitors' approach. In simple terms, what we have here is we have a simplified architecture, a purpose-built gateway platform, a complete gateway platform delivered as a hardened image, both software and also a rack-mounted appliance. And this architecture of the digitally signed and encrypted image is a lot more secure and a lot less vulnerable to security damages in the marketplace. Many of our competitors' gateways are built upon application servers and open source softwares, and there are issues with those environments and those areas in the DMZ, and those have to be changed and updated, and you have to spend more time managing that environment, which creates an additional overhead and also increases the security vulnerability. So once we have the gateway in place and we've got the API management now that needs to then provide the management, governance and lifecycle versioning and policy access that you need around these APIs as you create them and as you make them available. With all development programs, if you are delivering on these APIs, you'll need different version controls. You'll need to be able to have flexibility when you want to change an API or you want to introduce a new API. All the life cycle capabilities around managing it, turning them on, turning them off, cradle to grave type management of these APIs to provide a consistent way of supporting your clients or your B2B or your B2C experiences. So these are the key attributes and important attributes that help you drive the policies and access to those APIs, while the API gateway is securing them in the environment. And as we look at this, many customers are using APIs and the gateway to develop new relationships and invite innovation from organizations, and using the portal as a way, as a vehicle of attracting people to the APIs. And it's very important that the portal is easy to use. It has all the capability of being able to offer management around onboarding, specifically giving clear guidance of how somebody is going to be able to use your APIs, because providing self-service access and documentation and testing to external API consumers is very important in terms of being able to be attracting ease of use and innovation into your platform. Also, what becomes important in this environment is the ability then to do the analysis, to track the use of the environment, to understand how your portal and your gateway services are being used. And out of the box comes with this analytics capabilities that can be tuned, they can be configured and shared with multiple different information systems, and you can provide these both at a management level and at a technical level to just show how your environment is being used. This information, interestingly, is based on Kibana, and the information can be taken and put into other business management systems and shared with other systems monitoring software as well, giving you some clear and consistent visibility into the environment. So the APIs, therefore, from an architectural back-end point of view, shares an important set of capabilities and attributes in the end-to-end architecture. And I thought I'd put this chart in to show to you that where it lives in the architecture, and the fact that it can work with ESBs or back-end systems of record and data. And the fact is that we can, through the API and the gateway and event gateways, that we can attract and support information from both mobile environment, B2C, B2B, the API economy driven through APIs. We can also link this through to the Internet of Things, and all this can be driven also and connecting to other SaaS offerings as well. So once you get this going, what happens? How do you become a disruptor, and how do you try and engage in a different way with your clients and provide improved and enhanced customer service? Well, our strategy at IBM is to help customers that have built an API, an agile edge of enterprise, by using IBM's digital innovation platform called Bluemix, that has the capability of things like cognitive, powerful, accessible data and analytics to extract deep insight, giving insight and into action. It has cognitive solutions that build an understanding learning. And the combination of Watson and IBM Cognitive can add new dynamics and new value through to your customer experiences that allows you to engage, disrupt and win more opportunity and more business using these cognitive solutions that IBM has on their digital innovation platform. Driving agility and speed off this platform has attracted many customers to start here to look at these multiple different services that are available from a SaaS delivery standpoint from an IBM perspective. So that's sort of put the industry marketplace trends into place. We've had a quick walk through the key attributes of the IBM API and gateway solution. And now's the time that I'm going to introduce Graham Woods, who's an integration architect, and we're going to talk a little bit about the key capabilities that the client has used in their choice of the API gateway that we've just been discussing. So, that, Graham, welcome to the call. Good morning. So, I think one of the first things that we talked about was around the security aspects. It was sort of paramount here. Would you like to elaborate on what that meant for the organisation you're working with?
Yeah, so I suppose it's worth just adding a little context for everyone's benefit. So Office Depot were looking for a B2B, B2C capability to introduce that within our organisation. We already link with several hundred, if not thousands, of external companies, and so we needed to start taking control of all of those links to those externals by introducing this B2B capability. And so obviously one of the first things we were looking for is the security, the natural security aspects that is required for a B2B capability. And we were, one of the things that drove us towards data power above other competitors who were part of the bid process was the fact that, as you said before, it was a hardened appliance, and that compared with the variety of either open source software or proprietary software which ran on various app servers was a deciding factor, especially for our security architects and infrastructure architects. So everyone promised a degree of performance, so that was a given, that was fine. It was the resilience and the approach towards vulnerability which was a big deciding factor for us in the final purchase of data power.
Okay, Graham. So one of the key business initiatives was to be improving the time to value around your existing customers and also improve that on new customers. So onboarding was quite important. Do you want to just elaborate on the aspects of that in the business?
Yeah, I mean, I've already said we do have thousands of external both customers and clients that we connect with. And prior to this B2B centralized B2B capability, we were punching holes in our firewalls continuously, which obviously isn't ideal. But in order to do so, we had to engage with various third parties who control and manage some of our networks and our firewalls in order to be able to onboard any client. And that was both because of the number of external clients we have and of the inefficiency of engaging with a third party. That was taking us literally weeks to be able to onboard those people. And now that we have the centralized B2B capability, we have a single range of ports punched in the firewalls, we now can literally onboard clients within hours. And that's what it does mean is that we are no longer seen as a blocker to, or the IT area is no longer seen as a blocker to any project deliverables. So the onboarding has been very important for us, and it's worth saying it's actually saved us an awful lot of money as well.
Good, that's good to know. Also, there are wider aspects of this in terms of the operating model that the business wanted to deploy across warehouse and your clients. So the operating model benefits were quite important, we understand. Do you want to just touch on that for a moment?
Yeah, I mean, they delivered lower warehouse costs, mainly because our warehouses are controlled by third parties again, or some of them are, and so we had to engage with those particular clients. The method of engagement before was very poor and very badly controlled, and also because of that, the inefficiencies were introduced, which cost us more money. Now our speed of operation, if you like, with our warehouse management externals has improved massively, and the efficiency of delivery and security delivery of information between all parties has really allowed our operation in this regard to be as efficient as it possibly could.
Excellent. I think that's those two, onboarding and the operational model, is driving real value for the organisation. But from an IT perspective, I think we uncovered some benefits around consistency as well. Could you just talk about how you see that from an IT perspective?
Yes. So another main requirement that we had in the choice of a particular platform was that all forms of security protocol could be dealt with, and all forms of transport also could be dealt with via our B2B capability. And given the sheer number and scale of external companies that we deal with, we had every type of transport imaginable and every type of security imaginable. And management of that prior to getting the data power appliances in place was horrendous, to be perfectly honest. Now that we do have it, the ease of management of all the security protocols and all the transport protocols that we use has massively improved, purely because that single appliance can handle consistently all of those different types of transport and all of those different types of security.
So that's really good, because that leads us on to talking about the operational IT efficiency. I think you've touched on this point already in some of your previous answers, but it would be good to just reiterate, as you combine everything together, in what that's meant to your IT efficiency now that you've got this single point of entry for all security needs. Do you just want to cover that in terms of its efficiencies?
Yeah, you're right. I have covered a lot of this in things I've said previously. Really, for efficiency, what this has given us is that IT is no longer seen as a blocker for specific projects which are underway. So as and when we have to onboard any particular clients, regardless of how the data interchange between us and those clients needs to happen and over what security, we can essentially efficiently manage that. I suppose it's also worth saying at this point that we also purchased the API Connect capability, and on our roadmap, although we don't have any APIs exposed yet, on our roadmap we plan to manage all our APIs obviously through Data Power and API Connect, and so we foresee that the capability and efficiency there of doing so via that one single platform will also improve massively as well.
Excellent. And finally, you know, I've seen quite a few horror stories over the years about people looking at this as a purely development task and letting developers just free to expose APIs without proper due core and attention to these things. So reputational risk is quite an important aspect when businesses now are moving into this digital world. Can you talk about that view from your standpoint and what that meant to the business?
Yeah, definitely. The reputational risk from our business leaders was something where they had realised that this wasn't just driven by an architectural team, this was driven by a business team, the purchase of a B2B capability. And from a business perspective, obviously one of their main points was the reputational risk to us if there was any form of security breach within our networks. I think that was highlighted from a few months ago when Talk were breached and the risk and the reputational damage that did to their organisation. So reputation was a big driver in making sure that we had this hardened appliance which would allow all forms of security breach attempts to be thwarted, basically.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Graham, for covering those points. I've just got a couple of little additional questions for you. Could you talk a little bit about the approach you took to evaluating the software and the solution?
Yes, so the RFP was distributed to 5 organisations. Of those, there were various drivers, requirements that we had, which some were deemed to be more important than others. We've spoken about some of the more important ones. From internal scoring within our architecture team, we managed to cut that down to a short list of 2, and then it was down to those 2 organisations to present. Now, it's worth saying that all offerings were of a similar cost, and given that we've just been bought by a venture capitalist company, it was important, the cost aspect to this was important, but also from an IT architecture point of view, everything that DataPower brings to the table was very important to us too. And to be honest, the overriding aspect was, given that on a cost basis everyone was comparable, it was the fact that the B2B capability could be driven through a hardened appliance, which really swung it IBM's way.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that information with us and those kind words. I promised the audience that we'd try and get through the slides in half an hour, so this is my last slide, and in the way of a wrap-up, before I hand back to Marcus, I just wanted to remind everybody that from an IBM perspective, integration is what's seen as one of the inhibitors of making an ADI and a digital transformation be successful. IBM and its business partners have decades of integration experience, and the latest set of offerings from our business covers not only integration capabilities for your customers on premise, we also are being able to offer that from a hybrid perspective across cloud, hybrid cloud, and also back again onto premise. And you can see from this chart that we have a whole host of capabilities here: designed, operation, managing, monitoring and governing the environment, with a whole host of different offerings for all sorts of different integration challenges. And on that point, I thank you for listening to me for the last 30 minutes, and I'll hand back to Marcus, who I think is going to open the Q&A.
Okay, thank you, Andrew and Graham, for that insight. I think there's been sort of a really good sort of initial walkthrough as to the reasons you may want to be looking at an API strategy and the sort of considerations that you may want to look at. I'm going to open up to the microphones now for anyone who's got a question that they may want to ask. I've had a couple come through, which I'll just cover off while people are thinking of them, putting their thoughts together. But the lines are now open for anyone who wants to have that. While doing that, the question that came in is, if I'm just setting out on a digital integration and wish to make certain data available to customers and suppliers, would I need to invest in both the Data Power Gateway and API Connect at the same time? So,
you want me to have a go? I'll have a go at that. So as we covered, the gateway is capable of handling all the different communication capabilities between multiple different business environments, whether that B2B, B2C, etc. I think the question is, what data are you exposing, and how do you want that data to be consumed? If it's API, if that data and that information is being consumed through APIs, then it would need to carry, in our experience, all the attributes we talked about. You'll need the management, you'll need the analytics, you'll need the policy creation and the lifecycle management, without which your life will become quite difficult, and there is an intrinsic security challenge around managing that experience. The other aspect that the API Connect capability has is that the portal offers your clients an extremely efficient way of seeing you in the shop window. So I suppose the short answer is that by buying API Connect, you also get the gateway with it, and that provides a unified platform experience. If you want to get onto that environment very quickly and you don't wish to put that solution on premise, then you can go to the IBM Bluemix platform, which offers you software as a service where you can take API Connect and the gateway as a service in that environment. But you can buy the gateway separately for multiple different purposes, but if you are doing it through data through APIs, then we recommend you buy API Connect, which gives you the gateway as well.
Okay, thank you there, Andrew. Another question that came through was, given that there's several technologies involved, am I going to need to learn several different types of technologies to be able to put this solution together? Graham, given that you've been working with this sort of solution, are you able to give us some input from your side as to what your experience is in terms of setting up services and the approach that you might take?
Yes. So the approach we're taking to set up services within our data power appliances is to use patterned approach, essentially, whereby we have certain architectural patterns of behavior for interfacing with external companies, and each of those patterns now are pre-built, and what it basically means is that every time we want to instantiate a new service, a new client comes along, apart from the security aspects that we have to do, we can now use each one of those as base flows to fulfill that particular pattern of behavior required by that third party. And that's essentially something like a request response pattern or a assured delivery pattern, whereby data is passed through on a sort of fire and forget basis. The whole point there is that once the data power appliances have been configured to do what I just said, then we don't actually need any further data power expertise in order to stand up and instantiate new services.
Thanks for that, Graham. That's interesting. I'll talk at the end a bit about the workshops that W3 Partnership offer, and we sort of expand on that patterns-based approach within that workshop. A question that has come in also is whether you get the analytics with both the Data Power and the API Connect solution. I guess, Andy, that's one for you to answer.
So the analytics that I described actually is collecting the analytics of the APIs and the API usage, because it's important to understand that information and data. And the analytics comes out of the box with the API Connect solution. And those analytics can be shared with, like I said, other management information platforms. There are, in the Data Power box, if you buy Data Power on its own, then you can add something called the operationals dashboard, which gives you a similar set of analytics, which is more about the usage of the traffic going through the data power box, and it would complement the analytics that's provided through API Connect if you wish to combine them together. So I think the short answer for that one is that the analytics that I talked about is purely for APIs, but if you have data power on its own, then you can use the operational dashboard to provide you some throughput data.
Okay, so that's that. I don't know if there's any other questions that people want to ask. I'm just checking the dashboards to make sure that there's none come through. Again, by the looks of it, there's not. So just a couple more slides just to give you a bit more of a background from there, and then I'll wrap up the session. So, so as we said, Office Depot is a customer of W3Partnership. Our background is providing integration services and solutions, providing platforms for customers, and particularly within the API economy. As you can see on the screen, Office Depot is there, but we have a strong background both within the retail sector, clients such as Pets at Home, Silesia, who in this country most people will know better as Lloyd's Pharmacy, and then within the sort of government sector, customers such as Transport London and Office Depot. So we're used to handling these sorts of scenarios and working with customers who have quite complex and sometimes quite simple integration requirements, and looking to see how they can improve and get better time to value to onboard their partners, and also internally. As I said when we sent out the invite, we've made an offer to anyone who attends today that we provide an integration workshop. Basically, this is a one-day workshop which we offer out to potential customers, where we will walk through some of the business use cases that you may have within your organization, and come up with both a cost and budgeting analysis of where those use cases may be used to help you with implement a platform, and also look at the architecture and the solutions as to how you're going to be able to set up a whole integration platform. That's generally run by an integration architect and one of our other team. We normally charge that out at about £2,000 a day, but as I said, for those who've attended, that's a free offer. So if you'd like to find out more details about what it's going, then on the website you can see the actual detail. And if you're interested in taking up the offer and you're based in the UK, then give Graham Clark or myself a call or email us. So just one last thing, this is all being recorded. It will be available on the W3 Partnership website within the next couple of days, so you can go back and re-listen to any points if you didn't understand. If there's any further questions you want to take offline, then give Graham a phone call, Graham Clark a phone call, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy to handle that. So it's just for me to say thank you to Andrew Howard for your time.
My pleasure.
And thank you for Graham Woods from Office Depot for spending your time with us today and explaining the real realities for a client. Thank you, Graham.
Welcome.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Graham.
Cheers. So I'm going to close the call down for everyone now. And